Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Village Board of Trustees and Mayor. Today is October 27th. Tonight's, of course, the first order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight, we're going to be led by a student from Pleasantdale Middle School. His name is Jerry Martin, and he's here tonight with his parents, Debbie and Jim. I did not get his siblings' names, but this and some information about Jerry. Per his principal, John Glimko, he is, of course, a Boy Scout, as evidenced by the uniform, which he predicted that you'd be wearing tonight proudly. Jerry likes math and science, especially learning new things through experiments. And he enjoys reading and really likes the book they are reading in English now called Peak. Jerry also plays soccer. Jerry, you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Karen, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Grasso.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Bolus.
Here.
Trustee Ruzek.
Here.
Trustee Maneri.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Here. Our first order of business, of course, is the audience portion. Are there any members of the audience that would like to address the board at this time? Okay. Dolores?
Good evening. My name is Dolores Cizek. I'm a former trustee. I sound like Joan Rivers now in Burr Ridge, but I don't look like her. Anyway, I'm here for several reasons tonight. I was in Hinsdale a few days ago, and I have to say, compared to Hinsdale, on a scale from 0 to 10, I think the streets in Burr Ridge rate a 9. The streets in Hinsdale are -1. They're just awful. And also, I noticed, because I drive at night, and the last meeting it was dark and stormy, the illuminated road signage at the major intersections is very helpful. Now, I don't know, County Line is under the jurisdiction of the county. Cook County, I don't know if Cook County does that or if it's the village, but it's very helpful. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention is a few meetings ago, there was a resident who suggested that Burr Ridge should have its own Chamber of Commerce. We had a business in Hinsdale for over 40 years, and I think I can bring a lot to the table in this regard. I think it would be a mistake for the village to have a separate chamber. It would very much dilute the efforts of the Willowbrook Burr Ridge Chamber. Now, some of you may not have seen the ad that was in the Doings October 16th, and also it was in the paper October 23. And they list 16 benefits. Now, I'll only point out 3. They have an annual directory, they have monthly business luncheons, they have after hours, they have a monthly newsletter on email. So in a few meetings down the road, when I get my information put together, I'd like to discuss this, because I think that the best thing for Burr Ridge to do is to stay with the Willowbrook Burr Ridge Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. And matter of fact, the offer still stands from the last meeting. If you'd like to ever discuss these items in my office on Thursdays, I do keep office hours. The idea of a separate chamber was one thought. The other one was, I believe, to set up a separate business advisory group to better communicate between the Burr Ridge businesses. But we certainly be open to your input, and if you'd like to contact me, I'd be happy to sit down. Marty?
Trying to measure the 6 inches they're talking about in this. I think my voice could be heard without this, but I come to recognize the vast work of the Burr Ridge Police Department. My name's Marty Gleason. I live at 80th and County Line Road, Stonehenge. A female resident of Stonehenge had lost identification on a Chicago public transportation, the L to be specific, notified the Burr Ridge Police about this because was expecting that it was stolen and that they would show up. And a week, 10 days ago, whatever it was, sure enough, on that following Friday, the two parties broke into the house. Her daughter came home from medical school and found them by accident. They had not had the ADT service on because she was expecting her daughter. Her daughter saw the kitchen completely disheveled and went out to the car and called the Burr Ridge Police, who responded in 3 minutes flat. 3 minutes flat. And the two parties who were there escaped by going through the window in the back of the house and then going through the woods. One was apprehended pretty quickly. I don't know if they've apprehended the second one. But I want to mention that certainly if serious harm had come, we'd all be in here, the whole neighborhood would be in here complaining about police action. This whole neighborhood does understand, and I do certainly, that this action was unbelievable on the part of the Burr Ridge Police. They had been notified of a possible thing. They were ready for it like that. And I think they're to be commended, and I hope you'll pass it on to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Are there any other residents who would like to address the board at this time? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Aliabadi, and I have the pleasure of serving as Soaring Eagle Academy's Director of Development. And thank you for the opportunity and pleasure tonight to share a bit about the impact that we're making here in Burr Ridge. Soaring Eagle was founded in 2004 out of a dream of 3 speech-language pathologists that came together after seeing what an impact their own methodology that they were using within their private practices was having, and dreaming of what it would be like to use that methodology in an educational environment. About 6 years later, after a lot of fundraising and a lot of pavement pounding, our doors opened at 8320 South Madison, so we're right here down the street. And with humble beginnings of 5 students and a staff of about 10, we have grown to 50 students and a staff of nearly 90. What really makes Soaring Eagle a unique place is not that, we're just like a lot of other schools who serve children with autism. We are recognized by the Illinois State Board of Education as a therapeutic alternative placement. Students come to us when the local districts feel that they can no longer meet the complex and often multi-level needs of students, and they are sent to us and others like us. But I think what makes us unique is this just tremendous methodology that we have. And it takes the unique talents of our co-founders who really saw that there was something missing in the way that people were looking at children with autism. They were looking at them as, children who were aggressive, who couldn't be controlled, who couldn't learn, who really didn't have hopes of living a meaningful life. But they saw beyond that because they saw at the core was this language, the lack of fundamental development of their language. And by coupling that with this one-on-one therapeutic, very nurturing support, we are seeing children soar to higher levels than were ever thought possible before. We come here just to kind of get the word out about our school. We are growing by leaps and bounds, and unfortunately, with the incidence of autism rising at the rates that they are. Currently, 1 in 68 children receive a diagnosis in their family of autism, that we need support from the community. And so we just want you to know that we're here and that we're really having a wonderful impact. We are a one-of-a-kind school. There's no other school out there in the Midwest that serves children in the way that we do. We draw from 27 surrounding districts. Many of our students travel over an hour to come and see us. We've had families that moved from neighboring states to bring their children here. We actually had a family come on a visa from Australia to see our unique approach and see if it might bring hope to their families. So I guess I'm just here to let you know about us. Please, anytime, come over, take a look at our school, see the joy that's filling our hallways, and the wonderful impact that we're making. And also from a fundraising perspective, which is my role, we're always looking for new resources in the community. And we have a gala coming up on November 15th, which is going to be held. This is our largest fundraiser of the year. It's going to be held at Ruffled Feathers Country Club for the second year. We have a really fun evening and raises about a third of our income. So despite the fact that we are funded by the districts through tuition reimbursement, there's still a really large proportion of our budget that we need to fundraise for. So we thank you for this opportunity to get the word out, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you for your service and for your valuable contribution to our community, and for the contribution you make to those students with special needs and their families.
Congratulations, and thank you for being here tonight and for informing us of your great growth curve. You said you're up to 50 students, is it? Yes. Soaring Eagle Academy for autistic children, and 90 staff members, was it?
Yes, we have one-on-one service for our children. Every student has one-on-one that works with them throughout the day, in addition to the regular teachers and therapists.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board at this time? Okay, seeing no one, I'd like to go through the consent agenda, or otherwise known as the omnibus vote. All items listed with an asterisk are considered rather routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so request, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Under minutes, 5A, we have the approval of the regular board meeting of October 13th, 2014. 5B, approval of goal-setting workshop of October 13th, 2014. Nothing on the ordinances, nothing under resolutions. Under considerations, we have 8A, approval recommendation to reappoint Joe Paddock to the Police Pension Board for a 2-year term expiring May 1st, 2016. 8B,
Remove.
8C, approval of the vendor list to the amount of $110,909.50 for all funds, plus $209,590.98 for payroll, for a grand total of $320,500.48, which includes a special expenditure of $11,636 out of the Pathway Fund to Globe Construction Incorporated for the 2014 Concrete Sidewalk Pathway Program across various locations. Do I have a motion to approve minutes 5A, 5B, and under considerations 8A and 8C?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Ruzak?
Yes.
Trustee Maneri?
Yes.
Trustee Bolus?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
6-0.
Okay, under considerations, the approval recommendation to appoint Tim Scanlon to the Police Pension Board for a 2-year term expiring May 1st, 2016. Steve, do you want to cover the recommendation, or right to Trustee Bolus?
Right, to Trustee Bolus, you are making a recommendation to appoint Tim Scanlon. The background is the packet.
Pardon me?
Background, the questionnaire is in the packet.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Bolus?
Yes, the reason I pulled this was we had no indication that anybody in the Police Pension Board was going to resign or asked to be resigned, and I personally, and I know my colleagues were very comfortable with the Police Pension Board and the expertise that was on there. Can you give us some backgrounds as to who is being replaced and how many applications did you receive for the Police Pension Board?
Actually, I spoke to a number of people. One person that just was very, very interested and had some background with pensions in a managerial capacity, and it was Tim Scanlon. He's a president of the Homeowner Association for the Carriageway Club Homeowner Association, I believe it is, and a 5-year resident, and that's who I chose to appoint and take the place of Tom White.
And Tom White is leaving because?
That was actually, his appointment expired in May. I hadn't heard from him, didn't really know anybody that knew him, and I did from Tim Scanlon.
Was he asked to re-up?
Pardon me?
Was Mr. White asked to re-up
No, he was not.
his? And because, I mean, you know Mr. White's background and expertise.
Yes.
And the residents should know that he did run the pension fund for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. He was the executive director. So losing this kind of expertise on this board is kind of troublesome. So the reason he was not asked, sir?
Again, just my own personal experience and knowledge of the other person, and having never actually one thing that kind of plays up to it is that once if you have somebody that is on a board that expired or the appointment expired months earlier, and you hadn't heard from them, you kind of weigh that as far as pros and cons and people that you know that know something.
Well, I can tell from experience you don't really, as you're working on a board, and as I was on the Plan Commission, you don't really pay attention to when that expiration date is. You're always asked to re-up, and if you'd like to continue your service, not waiting for someone to say, hey, I want to continue. I'm really troubled by the fact that we've lost Mr. White because of his expertise and his longevity on this pension board, and especially with the pension changes that will be occurring. Mr. Paddock also is a wonderful addition to the board, and I know, did he contact you to say that he wanted to be re-upped, for lack of a better word? He did, huh? Okay, that's very interesting. And you thought at that time not to ask Mr. White for his opinion?
Yes, that is definitely my option. And
it is your option. I don't agree with the option, unfortunately. I think we should have done what we could to keep Mr. White and his expertise on the board. I don't know how my colleagues feel.
Thank you for your voicing your opinion. Anyone else?
Mickey, I'm a little befuddled. You said his experience is what drew you to him. Is that correct?
Managerial and overall knowledge of pensions. Pardon me?
His knowledge of pensions?
In general.
Okay, because I'm looking at his resume, and I commend, first and foremost, I commend any village resident for filling out an application and wanting to volunteer for the village. It's always a long time effort. I know Steve knows after 20 years to get people to volunteer is indeed, in fact, he's to be commended. My questions come to you because, Mickey, Mr. White certainly was qualified running one of a huge pension fund, but I don't see any investment expertise on here. I see sales. I see 34 years of development of the extranet program. I see 6 years and 4 months of sales operations. I don't see a wealth management advisor. I don't see an asset management advisor. I don't see a Chicago Board of Trade or an options trader, stockbroker, wealth management. I don't see a secondary degree. I see a history major who's not a CPA or nothing. What is your thoughts of taking someone from non-investment side and having them sit on a board that really has to monitor and bring to us to try to get our pension fund solvent?
Again, his overall management experience and personal investment experience, as well as corporate, drew me to him. Plus, he's a
You went over his personal finances, his personal investment record?
no, just the overall knowledge.
How do you know of his personal financial knowledge then? His personal financial expertise is what you said. So unless you went over his personal one and seen what his ROI, his return on investment was, how do you know?
Well, I wasn't going to go over Mr. White's either.
Well, but Mr. White has the credentials and the degrees. Now, because what it sounds like to me is, it sounds like, and I'm very discouraged by this, we have a person who has brought to our attention on several occasions the position of our pension fund being so underfunded. He was before the board, he was before the residents. And it just seems so odd, because I was on a couple of commissions, and we don't pay attention to our dates. Usually the mayor or village president calls us, and unless there is some type of debt to the detriment of the village, usually we're asked to re-up. We don't sit there, and it's not like it's a paid position in looking at our appointment date. But Mr. White was very valuable in bringing to attention that our pension fund is over $5 million in arrears. And you're picking a person with no financial experience, not on the resume. Okay, I see sales, I see a .com, I see 6 years, most recently 6 years of sales. I commend him for his. I see no secondary graduate degree, not a CPA, not an accountant, nothing in the financial to put on a financial board. And what it seems to me is that we don't reappoint the whistleblower, we get rid of him. Instead of the person who's first and foremost before us telling us that our pension woes are not going to go away, starting next year they're going to be on, or the year after, they're going to be on our financials, that amount of indebtedness. But you still selected someone with a non-financial background to be on our police pension board. And that's your choice.
Under my impression, certainly his experience in financials was enough.
Where at?
And also, mind you, there are many other people that are also on the pension board to be able to add.
Well, there's policemen on it, but I mean, where's the financial? I wish you could point it out to anybody. I just don't see anything here that says financial. I don't see asset manager, I don't see wealth management, I don't see Chicago Board of Trade, Chicago Board of Options, I don't see CPA, I don't see auditor. I don't see anything that says financials on here, Mickey. I see sales. Now, Mr. White was very valuable in showing us that our pension fund was in the rears, and that number will grow exponentially. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what viewpoint you take, our police pension fund is not under the auspices of the federal pension guidelines. If it were, and I'll read this, under federal pension law, a plan generally would be considered to be endangered status if at the beginning of the plan year, the funded percentage of the plan is less than 80%, or in a critical status if the percentage is less than 65%. Now, the police pension funds don't have to abide under federal pension law, but if it was any other pension fund, we'd be really close to the critical stage. Janet, I think even you and your husband were at a thing for Mr. Cronin where he said our pension liabilities are not going to go away. And
They're also unsustainable.
Well,
So
yes,
they will
but
go
until-
away, unfortunately, because nobody will be able to pay
well, we'll
the
see.
pensions.
We don't
And
have
that's why
to.
we're telling the younger people, please don't count on these pensions.
That's true.
Please start
But we still have
protecting
pension
yourself.
obligations, and they still said they're
We
not
do, but
going
I
away.
think we're still within the Illinois guidelines. That's,
We are. Your husband changed it to reflect the state of Illinois' guidelines, and we lowered our percentage of contributions a few years ago. But I'm still asking Mickey, you picked over a financial person, you picked someone out of sales, and that is what you're sticking by. I'm very confused and befuddled for it. Actually, I'm verklempt when I saw the application. I commend this resident with the utmost gratitude for volunteering, but I don't see the financial background.
John, have you ever been executive of a major division of a major corporation?
I've worked for a major corporation, and then I've owned my own corporation. But that doesn't give me, that
John, let
doesn't
me
give
finish,
me-
please.
Wait a second, I'm
No,
not
no,
the
let me
appointee,
finish.
Mickey, no.
Let me finish.
Mickey, I'm not the appointee, I'm
about
asking you
John.
a question, don't re-ask me a question. I'm asking you a question that you
John.
feel confident in picking a history major with no financial credentials. I'm not the appointee, Mickey, this gentleman is. And it's your appointee, so please defend your appointee. Where is the financial background? Don't ask me what I do. I'm not your appointee. I'm the trustee asking the questions. An answer, please.
John, when you're done belittling the applicants, let me.
I'm
let
not
me finish.
belittling the applicant.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. Don't put words in my mouth. Ask the newspaper. I just commended the gentleman for volunteering, Mickey. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm the trustee asking the questions. Where's the financial background? It's your appointee, so defend him, Mickey. Where is his financial background? And don't put me on the stand because I'm not your appointee.
Let me reword the question.
How about an answer first, Mickey, before you ask me any questions? How about an answer first? It's a simple question. Where are the financial
John?
background?
Are you done?
Mickey, answer, please.
Are you done?
Answer.
Will you give me a chance to talk now?
I'll give you a chance to answer.
Okay. I'm going to reword the question. And that is, as an executive in a major corporation, I know that he gets involved in many different aspects of the financial world. And not just from, the sidelines. And I thought, based on my experience, I believe in Mr. Scanlon's ability with regarding financials and pensions. And that was based on his experience with a major, probably Fortune 100 company for many years. I thought based on that and his level of interest in serving the community, that he wanted to serve, and that was one of his kind of sweet spots and interests, and felt he can contribute. So that's why I pointed.
Mickey, my question is, oh, I'm sorry.
Under that analogy, I can't wait to go to Chase Bank and tell them that we don't need wealth management advisors. I'm just going to pick an executive in sales of any major company because they could actually invest my money, according to your analogy, as good or better as a wealth management advisor, a stockbroker, or anybody who is an asset manager. So I will gladly tell Chase that I don't know why they opened up a wealth management office here, but thank you.
I really would like to know your thought processes for not asking Mr. White to re-up his appointment. Because of his level of expertise is invaluable at this time, especially with the changes in GASB. And to lose that kind of expertise is sort of disturbing.
Well, I don't think it's considered necessarily losing, because residents like that, and especially past members, can certainly contribute or if they need to be called upon. It's not like that resource is entirely lost.
Why did you feel not?
I also felt that one of the things I kind of believe in are the whole, to a certain extent, term limits, and to give other residents a chance to serve. That's one of the things that I believe is not in the village's best interest or anybody's best interest to have too much repetition. So, given the facts, that was the appointment. That was the decision I made. Now, you may disagree with it respectfully, which I can appreciate. But that was the appointment that I made. And I'm not surprised that you disagree, because this is not uncommon that you disagree with something that I decide.
It has nothing to do with what you decided to do, what's the right thing for the pension fund at this time, and the most expertise and experience came with Mr. White. And just to say that his term was up, Mr. Paddock's term was up, I mean, we have members here whose term should have been up a long time ago.
Question that I have. Your nomination is Tim Scallon. I know one of the things that when we've sat down and talked about people for the various committee, it's been a lean talent pool that we've had to choose from. Now, who else, or in your opinion, Tim Scallon had the best credentials of the people that applied for this board, or how did we come up with this name? Because Evidently, you have two trustees that are against it, and in the past, about the only appointment that's created problems has been Plan Commission. So, if there is somebody else, I would agree with trustee Maneri. If you can find somebody with heavy background in that area, that would be the way to go. But somebody that's been a CEO or very heavily involved with major corporations, I would think would understand it. So the question I'm asking, is he the best from the talent pool that you had?
Well, based on the applications that I reviewed, relatively briefly, he was and it's a person that I not only read the application, but I certainly know, I've known over the last number of years. And based on his executive position, I felt very comfortable with it, and knowing that it was had expired in May. I probably should have done a whole bunch of research 6 months ago, but I only have so much time in the day to be able to do that as well. But I think Mr. Scanlon is very well qualified, a very qualified executive, and I think he would be able to certainly handle the requirements of the pension board.
Oh, we're, 6 months before his White's term is up? Is that right?
No, it expired. It was expired.
Oh, it expired
5 months ago.
5 months ago, okay. So this is the,
Do you have a problem out keeping Mr. White?
pardon?
Do you have a problem out keeping Mr. White? With all his qualifications? That's in the past, it's always been you just kind of, you rolled on.
Well, I don't know why Mr. White was not passed over again. Or like you said, you didn't have any indication that he wanted to be reassigned. What was the status? I agree with trustee Maneri. In the past, if someone's doing a job, you maintain them. And that's one of the questions that we're coming up. Did he give you an indication that he wanted to stay, or is the fact that there was no communication, so you went ahead and decided to appoint someone else?
Yeah, and it's probably more. I don't know if it's more prevalent in the private sector or not, but certainly the ones that seem to want to get involved the most are the ones that reach out and find and ask to be reappointed. Hearing none, I based on my experience with a knowledge of Mr. Scanlon's managerial and executive background, I thought he was certainly a great choice, and I think he can handle the question, anything that related to the pension board.
So is that, so to clarify the answer to Al's question, Mickey, is that you didn't ask him to stay on? Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so you didn't call him or say that his term was nearing?
No, I was waiting. I didn't hear from him, so I just I assumed that was perhaps not showed a level of interest, perhaps an error, but I felt that
volunteered for 8 years. I don't ever remember calling. In fact, sometimes Karen has to check the books. Madam Clerk has to check the books to see the expiration dates. I don't ever remember volunteering for almost a decade and calling in and saying, "This is my date. Are you going to reappoint me?" Usually the seated person reaches out to the person on the commission, says, "Would you like to continue on?" And then it's a reappointment process. But so you didn't reach out to him or ask him to stay on?
No, I didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Francis?
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Scanlon says he's the current chairman of the Carriageway Club Townhomes Homeowners Association. Current president?
Yes.
Okay. In my 16 years of serving on the Plan Commission, I never had to come back and beg to be reappointed. Either the Plan Commission chairman or the village president or both thanked me for my service and asked if I would re-up, asked if I would be willing to serve another term, but I never, ever had to go reach out and beg for a reappointment. And I'm shocked that you expected Mr. White to do that. Somebody with an internet background, sales background, might work out to be a good commissioner. I don't know. But certainly we had somebody that was very well qualified, tremendous expertise. He and Mr. Paddock came before us and gave eloquent presentations on the status of the Police Pension Board. Very informative, very well prepared, knowledgeable, and was a great benefit to myself in learning more about the intricacies of the Police Pension Board. Something that is 70% funded, something that we're in approaching crisis mode on, something that demands our attention. It should not be taken lightly. And I think we need to get the best qualified person. And we have a good qualified person. And he was unfortunately not asked to re-up, to be reappointed. He was expected, unbeknownst to him, most likely, he was expected to go out and ask for himself to be reappointed. And I'm troubled by that, because that hasn't been my experience in the past. And Al, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in your 20 years plus of experience, do you recall ever having appointment to a board or commission, expecting that person to ask to be reappointed?
The great majority of the time, it's if someone's been doing the job, they are normally asked to stay on.
Exactly my point. I'm really troubled by this, and one of the questions that really wasn't answered early on was how many written applications were received for this position?
Actually, it's all the applications are already in the file. They're not ones that come out. We don't post it. It's not like we post it and say, gee, there's a position opening up. It's all the ones that just happen to be on file.
So you went through the previous applications that residents had submitted, and then came across this one that was dated October 22nd, 5 days ago, and decided that was the best one.
Actually, it's something that, again, he didn't have an application on file, but he's talked about it for a long time, getting involved in the community. And I thought I'd give someone with ample executive experience the position to serve the community.
Oh, I'm just reading the application date here. It's October 22nd, 5 days ago. So that leads me to believe it was completed and received 5 days ago. So,
The date.
okay, thank you. I may have more questions
Russell?
later.
I think a lot of excellent points have been voiced, and I'm wondering if it's a good idea to table this conversation and figure out what the next step is, because I don't know
I think the
that
next
there's-
step is to ask Mr. White if he'd be willing to serve this village in another term.
I concur, and get his answer first before
Yes.
we go out on anything, because this looked like you just put somebody's in on 10/22. But I think I concur with Trustee Pavesa and Trustee Francis. Ask the person who has been doing such a hard job if he would entertain the idea of continuing on for another term.
Well, evidently, we're going to have to vote. It's going to be a split vote, and I have a tendency, I'm a little surprised. I don't know all the total background and the details of everything that's going on. And like I have said in the past, it's normally, if someone's doing a good job, they're asked to stay on. I don't know it. I have a tendency to agree with Trustee Grasso. I'd like to see this matter tabled so that more information could be developed on the situation rather than having a split vote on the board.
I'd like to
And
see
by
the
the way,
matter.
excuse me.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, actually, on the point of the financials, I certainly have to concur with that. It doesn't, my experience and my knowledge of what I was impressed by his financial background is not reflected on the application, so I can understand why people might be reluctant and critical of it. And I could certainly go along. I think that's probably a prudent idea.
I would like to see this tabled on the pretense that we're going to ask Mr. White to stay on.
Yes.
I second that.
You can't, I believe Mr. Scanlon will probably make a fine addition to this board, but you can't replace the expertise and the knowledge that Mr. White brings to this. He ran a pension, a multi-million, billion-dollar pension.
In a critical time where we're underfunded by over 30%. Under federal pension law, we'd be at 60, we'd be in the critical stage, 2 points away.
I think that his knowledge of running that pension board is deeper than I certainly was under the impression of, and having not spoken with him. But I think that I could understand your having second thoughts on it, and I will be happy to consider Mr. White and sit down and talk to him in person and find out a little more information about his background and also more about Tim Scalen's.
All right, so I have a motion to table this.
Second.
What's the date on the tabling?
Could be the next meeting.
Next meeting.
We have a motion to table this discussion until I can have a chance to more deeply interview both candidates. And we have a second. Roll call?
Trustee Grasso?
Yes?
Trustee Cavazza?
Yes.
Trustee Bolus?
Yes.
Trustee Ruzak?
Yes.
Trustee Maneri?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Thank you. Under other considerations, for announcement, deliberation, and/or discussion only, no official action will be taken. Any other topics under discussion?
Where are we? Are we at the board part, or
Pardon me?
are we at audience or the board discussion? I'm not at.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know, no, they're right before the audience portion.
Okay. I would like to, reports, okay. Other considerations, no. I will talk at number 10.
Okay. Under the audience portion,
I couldn't.
any audience members would like to speak? Yes, sir?
Conrad Fielkowski, 110 Waterside Place. I'd like to thank the trustees for their monitoring this situation and trying to find the best financial help we can find. Carry on the good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Carolyn Grella, 8045 Creekwood Drive. That last discussion really got my blood pressure up. Thank you very much for holding off and by examining this situation. I do not think that people should be placed on boards that it might be a nice thing to do for someone that is a colleague or someone that you think it could do a good job, not for a position that has anything to do with serious monies when you have someone that is available. Please don't let any, the word tomfoolery comes to my mind. Don't let anything like that happen. Please be very careful with your decisions. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the board? Okay. Reports and communications from village officials.
I'd just like to dovetail on what Mr. Gleason said and congratulate the police department on their swift and expert handling of our recent burglaries. And Deputy Chief and the Chief, you and your officers have built a wonderful rapport with the residents, and your efforts in establishing the communication with the residents was very well received. The feedback I got from residents was very positive and very complimentary to the police department. Please pass that along to your officers. And Janet, I know you and your husband are very much pro-police consolidation, but I certainly hope that this showed how our village, by maintaining its own police department that is dedicated to the safety of our own residents, worked quickly and responded effectively and took swift control of a dangerous situation. Our public safety was not compromised by a possible simultaneous incident in another village and worrying about where officers had to be deployed first. I'd also like to pass along a congratulatory thank you to DuPage County Sheriffs who came out and also helped, I understand, with the investigation. So thank you very much for all your efforts.
Of course, I have to agree that we are in excellent hands with our Burridge Police Department, and nobody thanks them more than my husband and I. However, consolidation does not mean that it would have been they would have been torn in two, there would have been more policemen and et cetera. So your analogy doesn't quite work, but I'm glad they're here for us and solving crimes every day. It's great.
Well, you can have the last word on consolidation, but it definitely is not the right thing to do for us.
I'll let you have the last word.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to dovetail on that. Due to the modesty, I happen to be out there. I commend how we did a reverse 911, notified the schools, did a lockdown. Through the modesty of our outstanding police force, and maybe Mr. Gleason didn't want to elaborate on it, but they actually ran through the creeks, through the mud, waist high in water. They responded in 3 minutes, which I think is an incredible feat, when our residents were in jeopardy. So they're being a little modest of just saying that they arrived in 3 minutes when they actually had to run through a creek, through the woods, and apprehend someone who was probably half their age, fleeing with his adrenaline pumping. So I really commend the men and women of our police force. DuPage County was out there looking with their evidence technicians. It was a great collaborative effort. Another reason to have our wonderful Burr Ridge police. They weren't in another town doing a traffic stop. They were 3 minutes away in Stonehenge, and they were there and they apprehended them. And I just have to compliment them. Great job. Job well done. Please pass it on to the men and women. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the audience portion is complete.
I'm sorry. Police are also going to be interested, of course, in Halloween. And I'd like to encourage the residents to drive carefully and to remind everyone that if your children are going trick-or-treating, they may only do so between 3 and 8 p.m. So please monitor that time and help the police on a crazy night, I know. I also would like to announce that there's going to be a wonderful fundraising event at Global Luxury Imports benefiting the Greater Chicago Food Depository. That is on Saturday, November 8th at 2:30. Right now, they already know that Marion Hossa and Brian Bickle will be there. They sign autographs, the children love it, and of course you'll get to see all the beautiful cars. Then we also have the Jingle Mingle that is coming on November 15th. I hate to get in the Christmas spirit until after Thanksgiving, but based on how cold it was last year, we've decided to move it up a week, and it should be a wonderful event for the families, so please come out. The theme this year is going to be Frozen, and so many of the children love that movie and the characters. There'll be a wonderful parade. Again, we will be drawing cards to send off to the military. And we had great turnout last year, and it should be even better this year because I know it'll be warmer, hopefully not too warm. Then the last thing I'd like to bring up is that some people out there are still confused about our bridge, which we know is a little bit behind schedule, and I know everybody has to be patient. It's on schedule. Okay, it just seems that way. It's taken a long time, and I know everyone's frustrated, but it will be beautiful. It will be a wonderful welcome to our village and entice people to stop and visit us. But somebody wondered, quote, how much is this bridge costing us? And despite the fact that the infrastructure investment is $10,500,000, which may, I guess, be a little less than that, the Burridge residents and the village are paying nothing for this. Correct me if I'm wrong. The hotel motel taxes are being used for this, for whatever portion we have to pay, including the maintenance of the clover leaf and whatever. But the hotel and motel people are thrilled to be participating because they too see that this is going to be an encouragement for those maybe unfamiliar with Burridge to come and enjoy our beautiful village. So pass the word. There's also a very descriptive report, and if anyone needs a copy of that, they can contact me or the village.
You said to correct you if you were wrong or correct or incorrect, but I know it's a play on words. No tax dollars were used, but $375,000 of the village money that comes in from the hotel motel tax fund. So depending on how you look at it, once that money comes into our coffers, it's under the direction of us. and it was $375,000.
Limited direction, we.
Oh, no.
No,
It's-
John,
it's
let me
directed
correct, can I correct you? We paid $260,000
in one check.
in one check.
Right.
This year, we have $15,000 budgeted. I don't know how much of that we spent, if any. And next year, we programmed in as a guess of around $40,000.
Right, because we reduced some of the
But
plantings.
we're not even sure we're going to utilize those dollars. So it's a lot less than 375. It's more like 300,000.
So 300,000.
And again, using hotel motel tax funds. And I just want to mention that the project is on schedule.
Yes.
And we expect that the bridge will be open by the end of November, as we said back in February, with the understanding that the landscaping will still need to be done in the spring. But as I say, everything seems to be moving smoothly, and it should be no problems.
But the 300,000 came from our coffers out of the hotel motel tax
Hotel
contributions.
motel tax fund, for which the hotels had requested, and the village board agreed to raise the tax 1% so that the money would be there to cover
Correct.
the cost of that.
Correct.
Anything else?
Mickey, I'd just like to inform that July 2015, 3,500 young bowlers are going to be in the Oak Brook area with their families, and they are going to be looking for hotels. And I wonder if our agency, our advertising agency, can do something to encourage them to come to Burr Ridge. It's a big bowling.
Talk to me afterwards, and we'll talk.
Yeah, and maybe I mentioned it before, the DuPage County Conventional and Visitor Bureau is very active in this, and I don't believe we're members. I think we should maybe consider being members.
We were members years ago. Tom Needham, for one, was one who requested that we not be a part of that organization. There's some issues and concerns regarding participating in a Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I'll certainly talk to you about it afterwards.
Okay. The other thing I'd just like to mention, it was in the doings, that Oak Brook is considering 12 luxury theaters to be built there with restaurants.
You should. They're a highly commercial area.
It looks fabulous. I just want to bring that out.
Yeah. Very good.
Good commercial area.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other reports from village officials? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Maneri?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Bolus?
Yes.
Trustee Ruzek?
Yes.
6-0.
The meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you for joining us.